Could Act 3 of Season 2 of Andor be the best Star Wars we've ever gotten? So Star Wars may be back from narrative collapse because Season 2 of Andor has absolutely been delivering, and this week's block of episodes may be some of the best Star Wars we've ever gotten. In this week's episodes, the personal struggle of the rebellion will collide head-on with the brutal machinery of the Empire, and we finally see the Ghorman Massacre, something that's been talked about in legends and in canon for years. Act 3 opens up on Yavin 4, where rebel cells are starting to come together as a real army. We see the early stages of their base being built, with trees being cleared to make room for the landing area that will eventually hold squadrons of fighters and freighters. Right now though, it's just a few X-Wings and a single Y-Wing. A JT-731 Broadhorn transport, which we first saw in Kenobi, is called Shadow 6 and arrives and offloads fresh recruits. This moment immediately shows how much more structured the Rebel Alliance has become. An officer explains the new rules, making it clear that anyone needing supplies must check in with the duty officer beforehand. And compared to the scattered Rebel cells from earlier, this level of organization marks a turning point in their fight against the Empire. In the background, we see a FDP tower anti-vehicle weapon, which will later be used in the Battle of Hoth. Next, we see X-Wings with gold markings, which likely belong to Gold Squadron, which was the main starfighter squadron of the Masasi Group Rebel Cell, which was led by General Jan Dodona, who at this time is in charge of the Yavin 4 Rebel base and will later orchestrate the attack on the first Death Star. Wilman arrives on Yavin 4 and finds Cassian and Bix sharing a rare moment of peace. This calm is setting the stage for the chaos that surrounds Cassian later on when he gets caught up in the Ghorman Massacre. Wilman has come with a message. Luthen wants Cassian to take on another job, though the details remain secret at first. Later we find out that Cassian's mission is to assassinate Dedra, but Cassian believes Wilman is seeking revenge. Dedra was responsible for his father's death, so Luthen knew that Wilman would have personal motivation to try to convince Cassian to take on the mission. On Ghorman, Cyril walks through Palmo City Center where Imperial propaganda is in full force. Reports claim a firebombing occurred at the naval terminal, though the way it is framed suggests that the ISB may have staged the event as justification for expanding their military presence. Partagaz meets with Dedra and informs her that the Emperor is personally monitoring the situation on Ghorman, emphasizing how crucial the planet has become in the Empire's broader strategy. He confirms that the Imperial forces are moving forward with mining on Ghorman for the Calcite, and as we learn, this process will ultimately lead to the planet's destruction. Also, Partagaz mentions the Iadu lab from Rogue One, where Galen Erso works on the Death Star. The Empire wasn't able to find an alternate energy source, so Dedra is given a new directive. She is tasked with staging an uprising on Ghorman, and this artificial rebellion will allow the Empire to invoke martial domain, which is a formal declaration of martial law. And we meet a new character named Captain Kaido, who is a crisis specialist and will be in charge of staging an uprising. Meanwhile, Cyril is beginning to question the main motives of the Empire, and he questions Dedra about what is happening, and as usual, Dedra dismisses his concerns, insisting that outside agitators are responsible for the unrest. And to keep Cyril under control, she once again uses physical intimacy along with promises of promotion and a future together, which manipulates his doubts and ensures his loyalty remains intact. Back on Coruscant, Mon Mothma's driver, Korst, continues pressing her for details about her schedule, and that's because he's an ISB informant, and the ISB has Mon Mothma in constant Imperial surveillance because Mon Mothma was one of the original members of the delegation of 2000, who were senators that wanted Palpatine to relinquish his emergency powers. In the Imperial Senate building, Mon Mothma meets with Senator Fang Zar, who tells her that it's too late for his people, but still thanks Mon Mothma for her efforts and tells her to stay safe. Back on Ghorman, the Resistance is beginning to fight among themselves. What was once a unified front is now fractured, with different groups arguing over their next move. Some still push for a fight, but others are beginning to realize the truth. They have been steered into a trap and the Empire has already won. At Yavin Base, Bix takes Cassian to a Force healer to help with a blaster burn that won't heal. Typically, Force healers were Jedi who specialized in using the Force to heal individuals, rebels like Barriss Offee was prior to falling to the dark side, and she would once again become a Force healer after returning to the light in Tales of the Empire. Now what's interesting is that the Force healer was able to sense Cassian's presence from across Yavin base, and she doesn't just heal Cassian, she calls him a messenger, realizing that his purpose might extend beyond being a soldier, and as we know, his destiny is to get the Death Star plans. But she also goes on to say that his presence brings clarity and faith, something she feared had disappeared, and I feel like her words are almost implying that she hasn't encountered someone like Cassian in a long time, and to me it's almost implying that Cassian has some latent Force sensitivity. You know, he might be stronger in the Force than the average individual, and as we know, Force sensitives have become rare by this time because of the Jedi Purge. And later in episode 9, Cassian himself unknowingly fuels this idea by saying he's just lucky, but in Star Wars, luck is often tied to subtle Force intuition, and it also turns out that Bix may be Force sensitive too, because she tells Cassian she's had dreams of him doing something great, and just like Anakin's dreams that ended up being visions of the future, Bix could be having Force visions of Cassian's fate. Now as Cassian prepares to leave Ghorman, he climbs into a new ship, which is a U-Wing, and then we see him get in a disagreement with General Draven, the head intelligence officer first introduced in Rogue One. Vel meets with Bix, and we learned that Cassian, Vel, and Bix no longer work for Luthen. The man who essentially started the rebellion is now an outsider, much like Saw Gerrera. Episode 8 opens up with a wide shot of Ghorman revealing the entire city in a way that strongly mirrors how Jedha was portrayed in Rogue One, and it's ironic because both of these planets will be destroyed by the Empire. We see Cassian with his modular sniper rifle, and this looks to be a variation of his A280 CFE from Rogue One. The Empire prepares for the upcoming battle by barricading the plaza. Dedra reports rumors of mining rigs being dropped throughout the countryside, showing how Dedra is no longer briefed because she's no longer considered critical to the success on Ghorman, much like how she previously kept Cyril uninformed. And despite Dedra being the highest ranking officer on the planet, she's merely a figurehead, and the true orchestrator is Captain Kaido, showing that the Empire just uses you until you're no longer useful. The Ghorman front now has a full arsenal, showing its evolution from a misfit group of tailors and farmers into a true rebel cell that's no longer resisting, they're actually fighting. And their arsenal is made up of many weapons we've seen in Battlefront 2. A DC-15A blaster carbine, which was used by clone troopers. We see an E5 blaster rifle, which was used by B1 battle droids. The E11 medium blaster rifle used by stormtroopers. What appears to be an EL-16 HFE, which would later be used by the Resistance. An SC-44, which was a First Order blaster pistol. And a Glee-44 blaster pistol, which was used by Leia Organa. And also Molotov cocktails are now canon in Star Wars. The head of the Ghorman front, Cairo Rylance, tries to warn his fellow Ghormans of the trap and runs into and confronts Cyril, who insists that his mission was to capture outside agitators, not destroy the Ghormans themselves. And this is really showing Cyril's blind loyalty, even though the Empire's oppression has become undeniable. Cyril is escorted to a back room and finds KX security droids waiting alongside key Imperial VIPs, and these droids are going to be the Empire's secret weapon against the Ghorman resistance. And though these droids are officially labeled security droids, they are in reality the latest evolution of battle droids, and they're there to make sure that the battle gets further escalated. And at this point, Cyril confronts Dedra and does his best Vader impression, where she reveals the Empire's true plans, and Cyril is shocked by the brutality of what he's told, and officially dumps Dedra. When Cassian checks out of his hotel, the hotel clerk tells Cassian rebellions are built on hope, echoing the line he will later say to Jyn on Jedha, and she in turn uses it to rally the attack on Scarif in Rogue One. The Empire uses a sniper who's using a DLT-20A long blaster to take out their own riot trooper, causing the two sides to fire on each other, and the long blaster actually charges up prior to firing, just like it does in the game Star Wars Battlefront 2. And as the massacre begins, Cyril wanders aimlessly through the city center, caught in a daze while chaos erupts around him. Firefight rages, but he barely reacts, frozen by the realization that everything he believed in is unraveling, because he no longer has that structure he craved. Now, the Ghorman Massacre has to be one of the best action sequences and most brutal battles we've ever seen in Star Wars. It is absolute chaos. It depicts the Empire's brutality in full force, and there are no heroes. There is no victory. It's only about survival. And in the midst of all this chaos, Sero spots Cassian and attacks him, and the two launch into a desperate fight for survival, with neither holding back because this is a battle between rivals. At least that's what Sero believes. Because when Sero gets the upper hand and points the blaster at Cassian, and just as he's about to fire, Cassian stares at him and simply asks, "Who are you?" And this is absolutely traumatic for Sero. Sero has spent so much time chasing Cassian, building him up as a personal adversary, yet when the moment finally comes, Cassian doesn't even recognize him. Sero's obsession meant everything to him, but to Cassian he was just another nameless soldier of the Empire. While for Sero, Cassian was more than just a fugitive, he was a symbol of chaos that Sero needed to control. Proof that one man could disrupt the order Sero so blindly believed in. Cassian's actions shattered Sero's illusions, forcing him to confront the reality that his loyalty to the Empire was built on hollow promises. And that realization shatters Sero, showing just how small he truly is in the grand scale of war, which causes Sero to hesitate and lower the barrel of the rifle, leaving himself open for Carol Rylance to take a shot. The blaster bolt strikes Sero in the temple, ending his pursuit of Cassian in an instant, and gives Rylance his revenge. While escaping, Cassian and Wilman are moments from being taken out by a KX droid until Sam rams it with an Imperial troop carrier, sending the droid flying. Cassian and Wilman load up the droid, which will later become K2SO. Back at the Imperial Senate, the arrest of the Ghorman senator sparks outrage. Senators watch in shock as Imperial troops storm the chamber. Meanwhile, Mon Mothma tells Bail Organa that the truth can't be hidden any longer. She must speak out, and their next move is clear. They had to leave for Yavin. But Bail Organa chooses to stay behind, working from within to stall the Empire. He tells Mon Mothma that she must lead the Alliance though, cementing her role as the rebellion's future. Meanwhile, Cassian returns to Coruscant to extract Mon Mothma, but is haunted by what he witnessed on Ghorman, and tells Kleya that he's done fighting. Luthen secretly meets with Mon Mothma and reveals that Erskine Samaj has been his informant all along. Later, Erskine confirms it himself. He's been working for Luthen since the wedding. Luthen also tells Mon Mothma that Bail Organa's extraction team has been compromised, which is later revealed to be the work of the ISB. The next day, Kleya and Luthen convince Cassian to rescue Mon Mothma by telling him that if she's arrested, the rebellion is doomed. When Bail meets with Mon Mothma in regards to her extraction, she asks him if he knows the operatives, and he simply replies no. This echoes his later conversation in Rogue One when he talks to Mon Mothma in regards to getting Obi-Wan to join the rebellion, and when asked if he trusts his messenger, he responds with certainty, referring to Leia, saying, "I would trust her with my life." Okay, we might have just gotten our very first look at what a Bothan looks like in canon, and that's this senator right here, and I am in utter disbelief that it's taken like 40 years for this to happen. And if you don't know what a Bothan are, they are the spies that got the second Death Star plans. While all the senators are making their speeches, the ISB agent executes the extraction leader after she's discovered, and while Mon Mothma is making her speech, the ISB works to shut her down, and is unsuccessful until after she calls Palpatine a monster, sending shockwaves through the Senate. Cassian convinces Mon Mothma to leave with him, but their escape is cut short when the ISB agent intercepts them, but chaos erupts when Erskine Samaj calls the ISB agent a rebel spy, which gives Cassian the perfect opening to eliminate her. The two manage to escape, but not before Cassian takes out Mon's driver, Clovis. Back at Yavin, Vel takes stock of new recruits' equipment and spots a blaster from the Aldani raid, which belongs to Melshi, who leads the commando raid on Scarif in Rogue One. Meanwhile, on Coruscant, Mon and Cassian reach the safe house, but Cassian has to leave immediately, rushing Wilman back to Yavin for medical care. Mon Mothma, however, will fly separately. She needs to make another speech countering the Empire narrative before the Empire can twist the truth. Now, this speech is the same one we see in Star Wars Rebels, broadcasted from the ghost above Dantooine. Tatooine, calling for open rebellion against the Empire and uniting the scattered rebel cells into a true alliance. And Draven mentions to Cassian that the Yavin escort will be Gold Squadron, who fly the Y-Wings in the Battle of Scarif and during the Death Star trench run. Now Cassian reunites with Bix and says he's done and wants to move away with her, but Bix leaves him saying that she's doing it for the rebellion. Now I think this is inspired by the Legends Han Solo trilogy, where Han's former girlfriend Bria Theron left him for the rebellion and she eventually dies getting the Death Star plans. And finally we get K2SO just in time for the last act, and the weapons they all have pointed at K2SO when activating him appear to be Imperial Disruptor rifles. And I think this works so well. Cassian loses his love but gains a new best friend. Now I have to agree with everybody that this has to be some of the best Star Wars we've ever gotten, and I truly appreciate the amount of Easter eggs and deep lore cuts we get from Andor. Anyways, thanks for watching, have a great day, and if you liked the video make sure you like it and subscribe if you're a Star Wars fan.